Outlaw Sports is brought to you by Molson Canadian, made from Canada, and Rocky Mountain Barbecue, Alberta barbecue cuisine at its best.
I can't believe we're talking about a Stampeder win, Ian, without including Nick Lewis as a primary receiver, as a go-to guy. He had one catch for 4 yards and the onside kick in the last minute of the game to save the day, I guess, for the Stamps, or at least to put the Lions away. What do you think about that? Is that huge news for Stampeder fans?
It's peculiar, but it also speaks to the depth and some explosive weapons they have in their receiving core right now. Right now, the number one receiver on this team is Maurice Price. We've been talking, at least I have been talking about this guy for seemingly forever, because he was here in 2009. He left to go back to the NFL. They've been trying to get him back ever since. This year they got him back and they thought, great, this is going to be our next weapon. He fractures his ankle in training camp and you think, this is going to be a tough year. And it was at the start. They were having a lot less explosiveness in their receiving core. Nick Lewis was leaned on heavily at that point. And now that Maurice Price is back, catching these deep balls, really spreading the defense around, Nick is not getting as much action as he used to. He's fine with that as long as they're winning. So they're in the Grey Cup now, so we're not going to hear any complaining until, if they don't win the Grey Cup and he doesn't get any passes thrown to him. But I think Nick has been a real team player in that, because he's still an option out there. He's still there. If things aren't going to be open deep, Nick is still going to be there in the middle of the field. So I would suspect that the reason that this team is so dangerous right now is they have 4 guys they can hit and they can make things happen in their receiving core. And you had Jabari Arthur in there, who's not terrible either. He had
But he's healthy, and I was going to bring up Arthur because at least he's contributing. He's contributing,
yeah. And he's not on the field every play, but when he is on the field, he's a big body and he's starting to move people around. And you're finding that offense, to me, it didn't matter who was quarterback, because the rest of the offense is so deep right now. When you have the best running back in the league, some of the best receivers, and you have 5 deep, well, then it's set.
Let's talk about Nick Lewis. I know fans were saying, oh, the Stamps are punishing Nick for all the bad things. That's not the case. John Hufnagel would not be that, or Dave Dickinson would not be that ridiculous or small-minded.
Well, if you're going to punish him, just don't play him. But who are you going to play instead? It doesn't matter. That is ridiculous to say that they were going to be punishing a player for what he says on Twitter. He got punished enough because he donated his game check away, so he played for free anyway. So maybe that's why he didn't want to catch too many balls. He didn't want to put his costs down. But he did have one of the key plays of the game, and they put him out there on the onside kick return. He catches the ball. He's got the best hands in the league when doing that kind of thing, and that was a key part of the game. So he still contributed, maybe not with 80 yards on 8 catches as he was during this earlier than this season.
You know what was stunning, in my opinion, too? The discipline by the Stamps. How many games, big games, like the Dinos when they lose in McMaster on the weekend, penalty after penalty, kills drives, and that's happened to the Stampeder team in the past.
Yeah.
Not in the West Final. 2 penalties. I think John Gott was telling me we had 1 procedure penalty in the last minute of the game. Huge for
that was declined anyway, right?
So it's huge for the Stamps to be that disciplined.
And you start to see what happens at the end of the year. A team gets better and better and better as weeks go on. At the end of the year, you got to be playing your best football. That's why the teams that are in the Grey Cup are always, the Grey Cup is always so tight, because these teams are playing at such a high level. And that's why there's always so much tension in the first part of those Grey Cups, and you don't see really big explosive plays usually. If you think back to the 2008 Grey Cup when Stamps were in it, how tight that game was all throughout it, because both sides playing excellent football. And when you actually look at it, discipline is part of that. When you play really hard and fast, but you're playing within the rules, that's when you have a chance to succeed. These were meaningless penalties, by the way. It was 1 offside by the defense, 1 procedure by the offense that was declined, so it was 5 total yards. They lost 5 yards. That's nothing. And when you think back to the game against Toronto, they played here in mid-August. Penalties were a huge part of that, and they got goaded into some stupid penalties. Nick Lewis being one of them, got goaded into a penalty with Brandon Isaac. So that is something they're going to have to focus in on this week. They have to be clean, and they were this past weekend. I was hoping for a shutout, because that's just amazing. 0 penalties would have been amazing. Yeah, 2 for 5 yards.
Pretty darn good.
Yeah, that's still pretty good.
Okay, we'll get to the Grey Cup in just a second, but I want to talk about the team looking back over the whole season. I want your comment on this. Because I think trading away Henry Burr, strong personality in the room, and Kenyon Rambo, strong personality, has been a benefit to this team inside. It's allowed other guys with different personalities to take more control and made the team better.
And I think you may have asked this question of Cornish, what's the difference in the locker room this year? And it's the chemistry. And it's because, right, there's no more Henry Burris and Kenyon Rambo and Joffrey Reynolds. Not that Joffrey was a big talker or anything, but he was a presence. Those guys are gone. So it was up to others to sort of pick it up. And Keon Raymond has done that. John Cornish has done that. Kevin Glenn has done that. Kevin Glenn's been great at that, because one thing that everybody says about Kevin Glenn, you don't know it until you're around him a lot. He's such a positive influence. He's always positive. Even when he wasn't playing, wasn't starting, he was positive. He was always moving things forward. He was a presence in that room that they didn't have. Not to take anything away from Burris, Rambo, and Reynolds, because those guys had their moments, and they obviously won a Grey Cup together, so it was not like they weren't without success. But it changed the dynamic there, and you get a sense that no matter what happens with any player getting hurt, they just keep rolling. They keep moving and they keep going. And they played 72 guys this year. It's just an amazing total. I don't know how it stacks up record-wise over the course of how many, but generally teams will play 60 to 65 guys in a year, and they think that they have a real injury problem. 72 is beyond the realm of what they thought they would have to do, but they just keep on going.
So who takes credit for that? Is it everybody in the front office, from Murphy to Petrie to Hufnagel to coaching staff and players? Is it all the above?
I think it starts at the top and it trickles all the way down, and everybody that's on board deserves a bit of the credit. The training staff deserves a lot of the credit, because they've gotten guys healthy when it didn't look like. You think of the comebacks. Maurice Price this year came back from fractured ankle. J. Michael Dean comes back from a horrific broken leg in Toronto, by the way. That's just a weird scenario. And all the other, blown knees and stuff they've had to deal with. And they just keep on sending another guy in there, getting healthier, getting guys in and getting them ready. And now they got a team full of players that weren't starting at the start of the year, and they are contributing now.
Great stuff, Buzz. Now, that's looking in the past, looking at what happened this past season. Let's look ahead to the big game tomorrow, the Grey Cup.